we come to Yabby You,
Right.
the box. And Yabby, I'd met him a few times through a friend of mine, a Rasta guy who worked for British Telecom, a guy called Clive Palmer. And Clive brought him round to my house and we decided to do something. I'd done the dub album, King Tubby's Prophecy, the fourth album on Blood and Fire, and which I spoke about before, the old door, the blood red door. So I said to Yabby, we should do something for you as the Jesus Tree. He had tapes, but they weren't the mixed down tapes. The mixes, the tubby mixes and the jammy mixes, they were basically on the B-sides of singles. So I also had the original 45 7-inch of the vocals. So that's what we did. I transferred all of them, burnt them all to CD, went up to Cambridge to Cedar Audio, and we got them seeded there with the programs that only they had. These weren't the Cedar programs that are made commercially available to all and sundry. These were the ones that they were continually developing. So, that came out. And I remember one of the reviewers said, well, all these versions, what's that all about? Well, if you've got a rhythm like that, the great You, Yabby You, that rhythm, it's a killer. Family Man, Chinner. So happened that Yabby had done quite a few. I could never understand people saying, using the same rhythm is somehow wrong. Again, it's back to this, if you've got something that's good, use it to the point of exhaustion. Using something to the best level that you can. And Yabby certainly did that. And he was, what could you call him? Anachronistic. It was like he'd come straight from the, 11th century. He had this kind of biblical attitude to him. He's well versed in the Bible, of course. And I remember one time we were walking in Kingston, and this girl went past with the batty rider pants, and he said to me, "Steve, see Jezebel there?" Totally like that. His whole his viewpoint was that of a man who was schooled in the Bible from a different time, not 20th century, and that's why with that one, as well as the great photos, Dennis Morris, I also used imagery of medieval English mystics, who visualized and produced engravings like Jerusalem, the celestial city of Jerusalem, not the real city, but the city of imagination, the ideal city, for pure idealism, of course, because it's very doubtful that such a city exists. But in the minds of people, particularly very religious people, it does. And that's what I did in the booklet, in the CD booklet. We had all the original singles and the imagery there was some of the stuff that I used from these old engravings, 11th, 12th century. And I just love those photos of Yabby. They are perfect, Dennis Morris no doubt he took some of the best photos of reggae artists. So that one, we put that out, double CD, 3 LPs, you know, with no cognizance that this might not be too commercial, especially when you get a review and some guy says, oh, all these versions, you know, well, that's tough. That's what it was. That's the reality. And that's what we're trying to get our customers to accept. This is how this man, he doesn't ride around in a limo. He doesn't wear all bling stuff. He doesn't live in a big house. He lives in a suburb of Kingston. Well, several different places. And he's a man on the street. He's a one-bag producer with his tapes. Of course, he only had the original tapes unmixed left, because when he took them to Tubby's mixed the single and the version from those tapes, but there was no copy of that. So the only way they exist is on those B-sides and A-sides of the 7-inch, which is why I put them on the back like that. That's where they come from. Not only from Africa, but from Yabby You's bag. And, you know, did another one of dub. Again, that photo, dub it to the top. I mean, that's the Simply Vinyl version. Right. They did a deal with us to put stuff out on vinyl. Yeah, it worked quite well. So then we come to this man, Roy. You know, to me, the greatest lyricist, educated guy. He had his, what should we say, slight character faults, you know. For example, I remember when we did the Blood and Fire baseball caps, and I showed him, you know, and he said, see my own cap, pure French silk on the lettering, and, you know, he always had something better than what you had. I used to take, for Jar Stitch, Jar Stitch was a man who liked his clothes. And every time I went to Jamaica, I took him something, you know, like a knit shirt, one of those woolen ganzi, you know, Italian style, or I'd take Clark's. I said, you want me to bring you some Clark's? No. He said, I want Russell and Bromley, which is a much more expensive shop, and much more, you know, what can you say, a much more flash, you know, a bit more bling to it. Mm-hmm. So I took him a pair of Russell and Bromleys. He was something else. Really funny guy. But, you know, I don't think he ever really got used to not being at the top. You know, when people go down in public estimation, sales decline, new DJs come on the scene, it's hard to get used to. People can take the ups, but they can't take the downs. And before he died, well, a couple of years before he died, he came around my house one Sunday, been on tour with Gregory Isaacs in Switzerland and mainland Europe. And my house where I lived in East London, it had a kind of sub-basement, half basement. The front door was in the middle, so you kind of had to come up steps to get to the front door and steps to go down to the basement at the side. Roy came round and he got the taxi guy to ring the doorbell. And I answered the door. I saw Iroy at the bottom of the steps. And he literally didn't have the strength to get up the steps. He came in, he sat down in the big chair in the front room. And he just sat there for 2 hours. And we talked. I had some money for him, not much, but some. And then I said, look, you've got to go to hospital, man. He said, no, I'm flying out tomorrow. This was on a Sunday he came. He's flying out on the Monday. I said, look, he had a brother in South London. I said, you should stay with your brother and, get on the national health, free at the point of demand, at the free treatment. The next day, we heard they wouldn't let him on the plane because he was too ill. So he was taken to St Thomas Hospital in London. I went down there with Al Capone a couple of days after, and he had a room, of his own at the back of the ward. We went in there, he's asleep. I took some money. I had 300 quid from Blood and Fire, against future royalties, He was asleep. I got the money out, woke up straight away as soon as he heard those notes rustling. Really funny. And he said, oh, Ken Booth was just here. Bought me some fish tea. I said, oh, really? And Al Capone looked at me, When we left, I gave him the money and we left, get some rest. And I said, stay here, don't go back to Jamaica. On the way back, we driving, Dennis was driving me and said, he phoned up a friend of his, a regiment of Ken Booth. He said, Ken's in Jamaica. So how can I lawyer? That's what I'm saying. His mind was wandering. He went back to Jamaica. We sent him money. He discharged himself from the hospital, and a whole sort of saga. Like he went to another island, got some treatment, did a runner, didn't pay. When they came looking for him, his brother worked for Bellevue, the asylum. And so he committed himself to Bellevue. So he was mad, but he wasn't, Ira wasn't mad, no more than Lee Perry was mad. I mean, that's two of the biggest IQ guys in Jamaica you could get, in different ways.
Yeah.
But it all started to go downhill. He had some knocks in his family. The son of his got killed. And, those things hit you hard. And he died. We was on tour at the time with Hugh Brown and Rankin Joe, Trinity, doing a tour of France and a couple of other destinations in Europe. That was another thing that we did. I mean, how do you promote a reggae reissue label where you think, hey, you get all these DJs playing reggae, but what you didn't get at that time was 3 Jamaican DJs on the mic. And me and Dom Socher, who was working at Blood and Fire, it was Dom's idea. He said, we should start a sound system. I said, yeah, who's going to build the boxes and who's going to pick them up and where's the truck going to come, He said, no, you go to these clubs now, you just plug into the house PA. He said, I've got a Space Echo and a sampler. I mean, we made a load of samples for the keyboard of the sample. We had Prince Farai going, yes, I. So you could tap a key and Prince Farai's voice would come out. And we had like sirens and, gunshots, all the sound effects. And we decided to go with the DJs. I met Hugh Brown in 1991 and said, "Oh man, if I start a company, maybe we can get you a tour, in Europe," because no one had seen. The only people who'd seen those DJs in action were people in the Jamaican community in England, like when Rankin Joe and Just Screw came over in 1970. That real champion sound, And Joe, I knew Screw, and I knew Joe, but that's two. Then we had Joseph Cotton. Joseph Cotton I met when I was working at Trojan, and I knew he could flash lyrics like dirt. And they became our first three DJs. So we'd have three, they'd each get a slot on their own. Me and Dom would play a few selections, warm up the crowd, D. Brown, Gregory, common enough tunes, but tunes that, we're not there saying, "Oh, listen to the 15th version of Return Home." It's not for half a dozen collectors, great as those collectors are, because, I'm not knocking them, but we want to see the girls moving, we want to see people moving and dancing, because that's what sound system is for. And we got these three DJs supposedly past their sell-by date in Jamaican terms, but real cornerstone guys, like Hugh Brown come up through you, Roy. He came up on a sound called Sound of Music, which was run by a guy called Philip Monroe, who's the father of Lady Mackerel, who became later known as Macadam. So, that's what I would call pedigree, sound system pedigree. He was the first guy to record certain Gregory Isaacs tunes, U Roy, never been reissued. Anyway, we went out. The first one we did was at the Dub Club in London. We got 300 quid for that. Dom had to come down from Manchester. We gave all the money to Hugh Brown. He was great. But 300 quid, you can't bring a guy over from Jamaica for 300 quid. So I met this guy in Paris, a guy called Jean-Hervé Michel, who's still active as a promoter, tour promoter and so on. And I had a dinner with him in Paris, and he said, I'll get you a tour. The first one we did was just Hugh Brown and Joseph Cotton, a kind of community centre in the suburbs of Paris. And it was all young African origin French kids, Moroccans and so on, a few white guys, and that went well. We played all night. We was with supporting an English group called Sons of Aqua, and a French band called Barrow, really nice instrumental band, owns everything. So then we did this tour with Jean Hervé. We did, whatever it was, 18, 19 shows all around France, every place. Started in Paris, we go to Rennes, we go down to Bordeaux, to Marseille. I'm like the tour manager. I'm doing the samples, Dom's operating the decks, and they're all my records, B-sides, studio. And after each DJ had done their bit, then we'd bring everyone on stage, all three. There were three the hard way, passing the mic. And we're playing like Studio One, Better Dub tracks, Better Dub, that album?
Yeah.
Things like I Wasn't Born to Be Lonely, Righteous Flames, had a clean dub on the other side. So we can play that 4 times. And there, Joe and Brown and Cotton, they're coming up with different lyrics every time. So we done that. We done 300 shows from 1998 to 2007. You know, and it was a way of promoting the label. Also enable us to put out a record by Rankin Joe, the D Brown session that he did, U Brown, and that kind of got them established on that circuit of Europe and the world now. You know, I mean, they've gone on to tour all around the world, just like me and Dom did. I mean, in the end, on one of our last shows, we did a session with Roy in Japan, 3 shows. Nobody really wanted to book us in England, you know. And if they did, they wanted us to go and work for like 500 quid or something, you know. It's not, you know, I'm getting paid, so it's not for me. It's for the DJs. They have got to earn some money out of it. And they've got to earn some proper money. Not some, you know, monkey money, you know, as Pablo used to call it, you know, a monkey money debts, you know.